25 years later. Are you ready to rock the city once more?
Fatal Fury City of the Wolves is almost here, promising a culmination of all the series' lore and story that came before it. But since it has been over 25 years since the last Fatal Fury game, let us go back and recap the amazing lore of the Fatal Fury series. While this will be a retelling of the entire series, a more detailed, longer web series with more details about every character is currently airing on the channel. You can watch its episodes from the links in the description below. A full, longer, detailed recap with over 2 hours retelling the events is also in the pipeline, so look forward to that. Now without further ado, here is the story of Fatal Fury so far. The lore and epic legend of Fatal Fury series did not start with the first game. In fact, the legend started over 2000 years ago at the heart of the Jin dynasty. Among the greatest warriors of the era was Jin Oryu, a legendary warrior who stood alongside Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of the Qin dynasty. Oryu's mastery of martial arts led to the creation of the feared Teiyoken style, a fighting art said to grant supernatural strength and even immortality through the manipulation of ki and forbidden magic. In his later years, Oryu divided the secrets of Teiyoken into 3 mystical scrolls, one on hand-to-hand combat, one on political mastery, and the last on ki control. Each scroll was sealed with powerful magic, only to be unlocked by the blood of the Jin family. He entrusted one scroll to each of his 3 children, the eldest Tairyu and the younger twins Kuryu and Kairyu, scattering the knowledge across generations. Over the centuries, the scrolls passed through the hands of ambitious men and women. One ended up with the Jin family, one with the European noble Stroheim family, and the third with the martial arts school of Hakyuku Seiken. The scrolls faded into legend until their tale re-emerged through the life of a boy named Geese Howard. Born in Southtown to Maria and an absent father named Rudolph, Geese grew up in the slums of a city ruled by mob families. His mother worked herself to death, trying to provide for him. On her deathbed, she revealed the truth. Geese's father was alive. Originally an Austrian con man, he was adopted by the wealthy and noble Stroheim family in Germany. The rage and pain that followed would shape Geese's destiny. Determined to confront the men who abandoned them, Geese traveled to Germany. At Stroheim Castle, he attempted to assassinate Rudolph, only to be stopped by Rudolph's legitimate son, Geese's half-brother Wolfgang Krauser. Their first battle ended in humiliation, as Krauser defeated Geese with ease. Thrown out of the castle and left for dead, Geese returned to Southtown, broken but not defeated. He searched for meaning to his life, but nothing eased the fire within him. He turned to the mob, quickly rising through the ranks, and soon discovered martial arts. This led him to the famed master Tang Furu, who trained him alongside 2 other promising fighters, Cheng Xin-zan and Jeff Bogard. The trio would become known as the 3 Gods of Fighting Brothers, but Geese's dark ambitions grew unchecked. When Master Tang chose Jeff Bogard to inherit the ancient teachings, one of the sacred scrolls, Geese's fury erupted. Feeling betrayed yet again, he abandoned the dojo and set his sight on total domination. Geese unified Southtown's crime families, crushed his rivals, and even took over the powerful syndicate once led by Mr. Big. His power knew no bounds, and yet a chance encounter with a martial artist named Ryo Sakazaki, whose family he once extorted, rekindled his interest in ki and the lost art. Geese traveled to Japan, where he immersed himself in Japanese martial arts and culture. When he returned, he was no longer just a crime lord. He was a warrior shaped by both East and West, a man obsessed with strength and legacy. Despite his victories, one ghost still haunted him, Jeff Bogard. The two hadn't seen each other in years, but their ideals constantly clashed. Jeff had devoted his life and money to protecting Southtown's orphans, victims of Geese's criminal empire. One day, when the mob tried to seize land owned by a local church, the building mysteriously burned down, killing the priest and several children. Jeff adopted two survivors from that fire, Terry and Andy, raising them as his own sons. Geese's thirst for power was no longer limited to Southtown. He wanted to surpass Krauser, to prove himself worthy of the Scroll's ultimate secret. But before facing his half-brother again, he had to sever all ties to his past, including Jeff. On one fateful day, Geese challenged Jeff to a duel. In the streets of Southtown, two former friends clashed in a brutal fight. While Jeff was a strong warrior, he ultimately could not defeat his former friend. Geese emerged victorious, dealing the final blow that would end Jeff Bogard's life, unaware that two young boys, Terry and Andy, had witnessed everything. For a brief moment, Geese stood at the top, but in seeking revenge and power, he created the very force that would come back to haunt him. Jeff Bogard, once a beacon of hope for Southtown and its forgotten children, was dead, killed by his former friend and fellow disciple, Geese Howard. With Jeff gone, Geese claimed one of the legendary Jin scrolls, the same scroll Jeff had inherited from Master Tang Furu. Orphaned again, Jeff's adoptive sons Terry and Andy were taken in by Master Tang. Both boys were eager to avenge their father's death, but Tang knew they weren't ready. He began training them in Hakyuku Seiken. While Terry quickly grasped its principles, Andy struggled to adapt. Recognizing the difference in their spirits, Tang reached out to his old friend Hanzo Shiranui in Japan to train Andy in Kopoken. Hanzo, who once traveled the world with Jeff and faced a young Krauser in Germany, saw it as fate and accepted. The brothers parted ways, vowing to reunite in 10 years and confront Geese. Terry stayed with Tang, then ventured across the globe as a street fighter, growing stronger with each battle. One such fight was against Duck King, a break dancer who would later reinvent himself as a fighter after losing to Terry. Andy meanwhile trained under Hanzo and grew close to his granddaughter Mai. Though she developed feelings for him, Andy remained focused. Along the way, he met and befriended Joe Higashi, a Muay Thai prodigy who had become Thailand's champion after defeating Hua Jai. Back in Southtown, Geese expanded his power. He surrounded himself with deadly warriors. Raiden, a disgraced pro wrestler, Hua Jai, now his subordinate, and Billy Khan, a loyal British enforcer and master of the 3-section staff. Geese's obsession with martial arts led him to host the King of Fighters tournament. Years later, the Bogard brothers returned. Andy left Japan without warning Mai, not wanting to endanger her. Terry arrived just in time for the new tournament and crossed paths with Geese, but held back his rage, waiting for the right moment. Joe joined them, ready to help his friends settle the score. Fighters from around the world gathered. The King returned to face Terry. Richard Meyer, owner of the Pow Pow Cafe, entered for the thrill of battle. And so did Michael Max, a disgraced boxing champion. Even Toji Sakata, a former Aikido master with a vendetta against Geese, joined the fray. Terry defeated the King, proving he had only grown stronger. Joe bested Hua Jai again, causing Hua to question his path and walk away from Geese's control. As for Andy, he fought Raiden and won. But it was Terry who stood out the most, rising through the ranks and reaching the finals against Billy Khan, the undefeated champion. In a fierce battle, Terry emerged victorious and was crowned the new King of Fighters. Geese has finally realized who Terry was. He ordered his men to capture him and bring him to Geese Tower. But Geese wanted to finish this himself, alone, no weapons and no interference. Terry and Geese faced off atop the tower, and the battle was brutal. Geese's strength was overwhelming. Terry was outmatched, but in the darkest moment he remembered Jeff. The pain, the training, and the years of struggle. Channeling all of it, Terry launched one final powerful attack that sent Geese over the edge. In a moment of instinct, Terry tried to save him, but it was too late. Geese Howard fell to his apparent death. With Geese Howard presumed dead, and Terry Bogard crowned the King of Fighters, the Bogard brothers became legends in Southtown. Terry stayed behind, continuing his street fights and spending time at the Pow Pow Cafe with friends like Richard Meyer and Duck King. Meanwhile, Andy returned to Japan to resume training under Hanzo Shiranui. Mai, furious at Andy for leaving without a word, promised herself she'd never let him vanish from her life again. Geese's fall left a dangerous void in Southtown's underworld. Gangs clashed for power, and Geese's right-hand man Billy Khan saw himself as the natural heir. But a storm was coming from across the sea. Wolfgang Krauser, heir to the noble Stroheim family and Geese's half-brother, had been watching. Cold and ruthless, Krauser held a deep resentment towards his father, Rudolf Krauser, whom he eventually killed in combat to claim his family's legacy. Years earlier, he had faced Jeff Bogard in Germany, a battle that left his forehead scarred. Now, hearing that Geese had been killed by Jeff's son, Krauser saw it as fate. He would crush the man who ended Geese and assert himself as the ultimate warrior. Krauser sent his loyal servant Lawrence Blood to announce his arrival in Southtown. Billy initially resisted, but ultimately pledged allegiance to Krauser and even traveled to Germany to serve him directly. Krauser quickly built a fearsome team, including Lawrence and Axel Hawk, a brutish ex-boxer trained by Michael Max. With his grip tightening, Krauser declared a new King of Fighters tournament, this time to establish dominance over Southtown and challenge the Bogard brothers. Word of the tournament spread quickly. Old allies and new warriors answered the call. Cheng Xin-zan, a former disciple of Tang Fu-ru and wealthy Tai Chi master, returned to the scene. Kim Kapwan, a Taekwondo champion from Korea, entered the tournament, determined to meet the legendary Terry. Even Raiden, once Geese's brutal enforcer, returned, but now reformed and reborn as Big Bear. Inspired by Terry's ideals, Raiden embraced a new path, trading violence for honor. Jubei Yamada, the fierce yet comical judo master and close friend to Hanzo, also stepped out of retirement to join. And this time, Mai Shiranui refused to be left behind, determined to fight alongside Andy. Unlike Geese, who ruled from the shadows, Krauser took a direct approach. He sent his fighters to eliminate past champions. Duck King and Richard Meyer were defeated. Even Master Tung fell to Krauser's forces. This new King of Fighters tournament spanned the globe, filled with brutal and memorable battles. One highlight saw Terry face Kim Kapwan in a clash of honor and strength. Though Kim lost, he gained deep respect for the lone wolf. Terry once again made it to the finals. This time, the final match would take place in the halls of the Stroheim Castle. with a full orchestra performing as Krauser waited.
Your gravestone. Sleep well.
But before the fight, Krauser learned of Billy Kahn's betrayal. The man he trusted had used the chaos as cover to steal the Stroheim family's sacred scroll, one of the 3 Jinn scrolls, and flee back to Southtown to deliver it to the one man Krauser thought long dead, Geese Howard. But Krauser had no time to process the betrayal. He faced Terry Bogard in one of the most intense battles of his life. Krauser unleashed his terrifying Kaiser Wave and overpowered Terry. But the Lone Wolf didn't fight for glory. He fought for Jeff, for Andy, and for his friends. That purpose gave him the strength to rise again and defeat the Emperor of Darkness. Unable to accept defeat, Krauser seemingly took his own life. Terry returned home, having cemented his legend once more, but unaware that a new chapter had just begun. For in the shadows of Southtown, Geese Howard still lived. And now, with the sacred scroll in his possession, his quest for immortality was far from over. What no one knew was that Geese had never truly perished. At the end of the first tournament, and at the last second, he had used his Shippuken to cushion his fall, surviving with grave injuries. Rumors spread of a disfigured body found in his place, while Geese, aided by Ripper and Hopper, vanished into the shadows. For 3 years, he hid training, healing, and planning. Now all that remained was the final scroll, still tied to the bloodline of Jin Oryu. That blood now run through 2 orphan twins, Jin Chonshu and Jin Chonrei. Bullied, broken, and forgotten, their pain called out to something ancient. The cursed spirits of Oryu's twin sons, Kuryu and Kairyu, who took possession of their young bodies. But for these spirits to fully reincarnate, they needed the 3 scrolls. Enter Ryuji Yamazaki. A sadistic arms dealer, Yamazaki agreed to help the twins, but only because he believed the scrolls would lead him to Oryu's long-lost treasure. After arriving in Southtown, he quickly made his presence known by defeating Ripper and Hopper with ease and sending a message to Geese. Meanwhile, Geese reclaimed his throne, and to bait his enemies, he spread rumors through Billy Kahn that the final scroll lay hidden in Southtown. As word spread, warriors from around the world began converging on the city. At the newly opened Pow Pow Cafe 2, Richard Meyer invited Terry and Andy to celebrate. Andy, now running the Shiranui dojo with Mai, was easy to find, but Terry had been wandering the world. Upon hearing the invitation, he returned for the first time in 2 years, only to find the city drowning in chaos once again. Cheng Xin-zan, having heard the scroll rumors, contacted Joe Higashi in Hanfu, a Hong Kong detective long obsessed with capturing Yamazaki. Realizing something dark was rising, Joe returned to Southtown, and so did Sokako Mochizuki, a monk whose clan once battled demons. He sensed a dangerous energy, something the scrolls shouldn't have awakened. Then tragedy struck. Yamazaki targeted Franco Bash, a retired boxer and family man. Franco's son was kidnapped, forcing him into Yamazaki's service. Franco had no choice but to obey. Meanwhile, the US government, concerned by Geese's resurgence, dispatched a specialist, Blue Mary, a master of Sambo and a woman marked by personal tragedy. Mary had her own reasons to seek Geese. Her grandfather had once trained him and had mysteriously vanished. Terry, trying to make sense of it all, went straight to Geese Tower. There, Geese confronted him, not to kill him, but to test him. They clashed in a brutal fight, but Geese retreated once he had seen what he needed. Then everything changed. Apparently, Yamazaki has obtained one of the scrolls. Cheng rushed to warn Terry, and the heroes followed Yamazaki to the Southtown rail station, where Terry and Yamazaki clashed for the second time. This time, Terry won the battle, but it wasn't over. Suddenly, magical orbs engulfed the fighters, as they were teleported deep beneath Southtown's Delta Park to face with Jin Chonshu, now controlled by Kairyu. A vicious battle followed, but Terry and his team prevailed. Just as they caught their breath, Jin Chonrei arrived. Possessed by Kuryu, he unleashed his fury. The battle was even more intense, leaving Andy badly wounded. But with everything on the line, Terry delivered the final blow, defeating Chonrei and shattering the spirits of the cursed twins. The orphans are now free from possession, but had no memory of what happened. Terry saw their pain, so familiar to his own, and vowed to help them. Yamazaki vanished, Franco was reunited with his son, and Hanfu resumed his pursuit of justice. And for the first time in years, Blue Mary smiled, finding solace in her bond with Terry. As calm returned, Terry stood alone by the Southtown harbor, wondering what the future held. That's when a priest that Terry knew approached him, and with him was a young boy, an orphan named Rock. The priest wanted to ask Terry to take care of the young boy, just as Jeff once did for him and Andy. Something about the boy felt familiar. Without hesitation, Terry took him in, just as Jeff had once done for him. But elsewhere, in silence, Geese held all three scrolls in his hands. But nothing happened. No power, no immortality. It seems the scrolls were a hoax. To Geese, they weren't sacred, but they were trophies, proof that he had surpassed every warrior who had ever sought them in the last 2,000 years. And with that mindset, he ordered Billy Khan to destroy them. While Geese consolidated his empire, Terry had taken on a new role as a guardian and mentor to Rock. But what he didn't yet know at the time was the truth behind the boy's lineage. Rock was Geese Howard's illegitimate son. Raised in poverty by his mother, Marie Heinlein, Rock lived a quiet life, always wondering about the father he never met. When Marie fell gravely ill, she revealed the truth. Geese was his father. Desperate, Rock went to Geese Tower and begged for help, not for himself, but for his mother. Geese coldly turned him away. That night, Marie supposedly passed away, and Rock's childhood died with her. Unknowingly repeating his own father's sins, Geese had created in Rock the same pain he once suffered. And just like Geese had once done, Rock would carry that pain forward. With his dominance reaffirmed, Geese announced a new King of Fighters tournament. Hand-picked invitations were sent, including returning champions, new faces, and most importantly, Terry and Andy. The US government, worried by Geese's growing control over Southtown, sent Blue Mary to enter the tournament and monitor his moves. As the fights began, warriors battled across the city. Andy, still recovering from his previous injuries, didn't make it far. The Jin brothers, now free of the curse, fought with joy for the first time. Eventually, it all led back to the tower. Terry versus Geese. No distractions and no interference. The final battle atop Geese Tower was legendary. Geese, stronger than ever, unleashed a terrifying version of his raging storm. But Terry, drawing strength from his past, countered with his most powerful power geyser. Geese was thrown towards the edge of the tower. Terry caught him. Their eyes met. Geese smiled, but not in gratitude. He pulled away from Terry's grasp and let himself fall. To him, death by his own will was the only victory left. This time, Geese Howard was truly dead. His body recovered, and his death confirmed. After the tournament, Rock revealed the truth to Terry, that he was Geese's son. Terry, shocked, feared rejection. But Rock held no hatred. He had chosen Terry as his true father. The lone wolf's legacy lived on. But even in death, Geese's shadow loomed. Billy Khan, loyal until the end, ignored Geese's last order. He kept the scrolls. Something about them felt alive. Southtown's new era didn't last long. A new figure emerged, White, a psychic crime lord with mind control powers. White quickly seized power. In a brutal ambush, he broke Billy's will and used him as a puppet to claim Geese's fallen empire. But Southtown would not fall quietly. From the ashes of a destroyed village came Alfred, a young pilot seeking justice. Inspired by Terry, Alfred confronted White and against all odds defeated him, freeing Billy and ending White's short reign. Peace returned to Southtown once again. Terry and Rock traveled the world, their bond growing deeper. Andy and Mai rebuilt the Sharonui dojo. Joe trained new disciples. The Jin twins began new lives with Chonrei and their Master Tong and Chonshu and their Kim Kap-Wan. But Billy Khan couldn't forget the scrolls. When he finally dared to study them, he uncovered a chilling truth. The scrolls didn't grant immortality of the body, they cursed the soul. Anyone who united all three became eternally bound, trapped within their power. And the last one to do so was Geese Howard. His body was gone, but maybe not his soul. Geese Howard, the tyrant who once ruled Southtown with force, may now exist as something far worse, not as a man, but as a nightmare. Following the death of Geese, the American city of Southtown finally knew peace. Freed from years of corruption and violence, it began to heal. But not far away, beyond the reach of this fragile prosperity, stood another city, Second Southtown. A shadow of its neighbor, Second South was a haven for those discarded by society, orphans, criminals, and those with nowhere left to go. And it was there, 19 years ago, that a boy named Kine fought to survive. In the filth and chaos of the slums, besides his sister Marie, Kine had only one companion, Abel. The two boys had nothing, but they had each other. One day, while searching for scraps, they came upon a scene that would change their lives forever. A boy, no older than them, was being beaten by a gang for no reason. No one helped, no one intervened, and when the gang moved on, the boy was dead, left behind like trash. Kine and Abel didn't walk away. They carried the boy's body to a seaside hill and dug a grave with their bare hands. No words were spoken. That night, Kine made a vow. He would never die forgotten. He would never be powerless again, and he would rise not for justice, but for control. Because power was the only thing this world respected. Years passed, and Kine grew into a brilliant, calculated man. Ruthless, charismatic, and sharp. He became a rising force in the underworld of Second South. But he wasn't driven by greed or chaos. He sought to reshape the world. He wanted to be independent from Southtown. Abel remained at his side, his loyal enforcer and protector. But following an almost deadly accident, Abel adopted the identity of Grant, a masked giant figure that's sole purpose is to protect his friend. And then, Kine learned of Rock Howard. Around the same time, the King of Fighters Maximum Mayhem was announced, secretly funded and orchestrated by Kine himself. Fighters from around the world were invited. Some came for glory, like the wrestler known as Tizok. Others, like Hotaru, came to find their lost family. And others, like Kevin, wanted revenge for the death of their best friend at the hands of the criminal known as Freeman. Children of legendary fighters also have participated. like the now grown-up Jae-hoon and Dong-won, twin sons of the legendary Kim Kap-won. But for Kine, it was all for one goal: to bring Rock to him. Terry hesitated to enter the tournament, but Rock was determined, not just to fight, but to understand, to finally confront the bloodline that had haunted him. His father's legacy still cast a long shadow, and deep down, Rock needed to know if he could truly escape it. Rock fought his way through the tournament, rising above every challenge. In the final round, he stood before Kine. The battle was intense and brutal, but in the end, Rock won. And then, Kine revealed the truth. Marie Heinlein, Rock's mother, was Kine's sister. Not only that, but that she is still alive. The revelation shattered everything Rock thought he knew. His mother, the kind and gentle woman who raised him, was Kine's family and still lives. The blood that ran through him was not just Geese's, but Kine's as well. And then Kine made his offer, not as a villain, not as an enemy, but as family. He asked Rock to join him in order for him to reveal the truth and whereabouts about Marie, his mother. Terry stood silent. The man who had raised Rock trained him and loved him as a son. But Rock had no choice. He wanted to know the truth. So he asked Terry that he lets him leave with Kine. Terry nodded, not angered, not sad, but proud. And with that, Rock Howard walked into the unknown, leaving behind the only father he had ever known, to uncover the legacy of his family. And now, 2 years have passed since, and a brand new King of Fighters tournament has been announced. Fighters from around the globe once again are heading to Southtown to see the mystery behind this new event. Will we know the whereabouts of Marie Heinlein? And is the legend of the scrolls truly over? We'll know all that and more in Fatal Fury: City of the Wolves. I hope you guys enjoyed this recap, and big shout out to the channel's patrons and premium subscribers. You can become one, help the channel, and get exclusive access and digital goodies by checking the link in the description below. Now until next time, thank you guys for watching.